Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Great Tuesday here, and glad to have you aboard on this 25th day of July. If he were still alive, my father would be 117 years old today.
Wow.
So there you go.
Wow, that's amazing.
Really. Our birthdays were 2 days apart.
Aw.
Birthdays, not dates.
Yes.
Of course.
Of course. Well, we have some good news this morning. The Lowe's employee that was fired actually did get her job back.
Yeah.
That was reported yesterday. So
Imagine Rankin making national news, and thanks to the idiots that run Lowe's who fired this woman for doing her job, and in fact going above and beyond. So finally, maybe the message is getting across that maybe the good people ought to be rewarded and not the bad ones.
yes, I also think they may have wanted to avoid a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah.
I think that they
Can
may
you
have,
imagine? And I
that may
can't
have played a role.
And the negative publicity they were getting, I think even the Communist News Network was talking about it. So it was really something. And congratulations. I mean, she probably should have told them to stick it where the sun don't shine. But, at the same time, she talked about how much she loved her job. And that she was fired for trying to stop some thugs that were running out with $2,000 worth of stuff.
Well, and I also think, from what I understand, she's a very private person. She didn't like all the attention, and she just wanted it to go away. So
Yeah, she
I
said
think that's part of it
don't
too.
start any GoFundMe
Yeah.
accounts or anything like that. I'm sure it's probably too late for that.
Yes.
But she's probably going to get a nice little hunk of change out of it.
Yes. And so, anyways, what started with some good news this morning.
Yeah, really.
One of the other things that's happening in our city this week is we have the Board of Registrars meeting tomorrow at noon at the Board of Elections office on Eisenhower. We also have the Savannah City Council meeting on Thursday night, which this is where they are going to vote on the millage rate for Savannah.
Wonder if anybody's going to get thrown out.
I hope not, but I also think that it's important that people understand what their representatives are voting for, especially at the city level, because that does control your taxes. And people keep wondering, why do my property taxes keep going up? Why do I keep paying more taxes? Well, these people are the ones that are raising it.
Yeah, because the government never has enough money. I don't care how much money you give them. They never have enough.
No, and they never will.
No.
So I think it's important that you pay attention to who's voting because it is an election year this year. So there is something you can do about it.
And you notice when they talk about these budget or how much the taxes are raised, or when the school board says they need more money, if they don't get it, then they go to, well, we'll have to cut out the music program or something. It was important. If we don't get this, we'll have to cut out the music program. We'll have to cut out something. We won't be able to do as much street repairs if we don't get this, that, or the other. You should be living on a budget just like the rest of us. And when and that is one of the main things that they do, especially on school boards, where they say, we'll have to cut out the art program and the music program. And they know how important those programs are to the students who take them, and also to the parents who say, look, you teach music and you teach art. That helps coordinate whatever you do in math and science and everything else. Music is mathematics applied, and everybody ought to be taking it. Once upon a time in this country, Brittany, just about if you couldn't go into a home that didn't have a piano.
Oh, I remember those days.
And now it's hard to, you can count on one, probably if you go into 1,000 homes in the next year or so, you probably won't be able to fill the fingers of one hand of the places that have a piano.
No, a lot of people, I mean, they required that their kids do piano lessons. They maybe, at least where I'm from, they said, you don't have to do it forever, but you have to at least take 2 to 3 years of piano. That was just a lot of families in my area. That was just something that they made their kids do. And I think it teaches discipline. It also has your brain function in a different way. So very interesting, Bill. But
so
again,
make sure you go to those meetings. And folks, make sure you know who you're voting for. The turnout for local elections should be larger than national elections.
Oh, absolutely.
These are the people that run your lives.
These are the people you can run into at the grocery store.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one other thing I just want to mention really quick this morning is that Spalding County did have their vote last night on paper ballots. So people didn't get exactly what they wanted, but I do think it's important to note that they have a hand recount to verify scanner count before certification passes. So, and that passed with a 3-1 vote. So I do think that that's really important. And
you have to take little steps. We have to take little steps.
Yeah, well, and I think that this gives, I still think that this allows some transparency that people are looking for. It's not perfect, but I do think we're moving in the right direction. And I do think it's a win because the Secretary of State's office cannot do it really that much about it. So they have control over the voting machines, and they're requiring everyone use them. So I do think that this is a little win, and I'm hoping more counties will get on board with that. I do think that it's necessary. And I think, so here's the reason I think it's necessary, Bill. It's providing confidence in our elections in which people do not have confidence in right now. So it's a good step. It's not perfect, but I do think that we have to do something to build confidence, especially among Republicans who have told me personally, I'm not voting until those Dominion machines are gone. So maybe this is something that we can maybe get them to get on board with. It's not perfect, but we still need you to vote.
This is called cutting off your nose to spite your face. Because the other side is voting whether they got Dominion machines or not. And they're voting in droves, and they are voting 10 or 12 times. And a lot of dead people are voting.
Yes.
But nevertheless, if you don't go out and vote and at least make your voice heard, in fact, we've done the surveys. We would have Herschel Walker as our senator if all the Republicans had turned out. We would have had David Perdue as our senator. We'd have 2 Republican senators now if the Republicans had shown up in the numbers that they should have.
Well, we just have to stop thinking that the perfect candidate is out there. They are not, and it is really hard to run for office. So if you have such an issue with it, maybe you should run for office.
Yeah, there's only been one perfect person, and look what they did to him.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Just a little thought. But in other news, something else that is happening is, Joe Biden, I don't know if you heard, but Twitter is actually becoming X. Which is kind of weird, but
X.
I guess they're going to call it Xing instead of tweeting, which I'm like, I don't really think that that's going to fly.
But we had SpaceX, and now we just have X, and it's the same guy, Elon Musk.
Well, and there's the new logo. And he wants this to be the everything app is what he's going for, which I think is kind of a dangerous concept. I don't think that anyone should have that much data or control over our lives, but we'll see how that ends up panning out for us. But okay, Mary's with us this morning, and I just want to touch on this before we move on. Not voting is voting for the other side, 100%.
Yeah.
But Joe Biden wants to look into some of the things that Elon Musk is doing.
Yeah. Gee, what a surprise.
I think that Elon Musk's cooperation and/or technical relationships with other countries is worthy of being looked at. Whether or not he is doing anything inappropriate, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that it's worth being looked at. But that's all I'll say. There's a lot of ways. All right.
Once again, that fountain of eloquence at the White House.
I was like, thank goodness that was all he had to say, because it took him forever to get that out. I was like, oh my gosh, cringing.
And did he say working with other countries or something? What did he say about it?
Yeah, technology. He's worried about the technology that he's working with other countries on. Interesting.
Wow.
But maybe he's just a little bit jealous about the revenue that Elon Musk is making, and maybe he's not making as much.
Yeah, the big guy's not getting his 10%.
Exactly. But I did hear Kevin McCarthy was on Fox, and unfortunately, that's where most of these people are. So we do have clips from Fox.
We watch Fox, so you don't have to. Okay.
Bill watches Fox, so we don't have to. But Kevin McCarthy was on last night talking about, because of Biden's relationships, he's probably going to be impeached.
That they bribed the Bidens, okay? This was given to the FBI. When Bill Barr finally found out about it, he sent it to his office in Philadelphia. They actually said that this was very credible. The FBI kept this from the IRS individuals for them ever to see it. So not only do they claim that they were bribed, we now find information that 16 out of 17 payments from Romania were provided to the Biden shell companies while he was vice president. When President Biden was running for office, he told the American public that he's never talked about business. He said his family has never received $1 from China, which we now proved is not true. We now have some of the most credible whistleblowers. These 10-year IRS agents who have come forward said that the Biden family has been treated differently, that what Weiss has told us is different than what Garland and Weiss has told the public. And you're sitting here today where now you have found millions of foreign money, just what the 1023 alleges they did to Biden's family. Now we found that it has funneled through shell companies. If you're sitting in our position today, we would know none of this if Republicans had not taken the majority. We've only followed where the information has taken us. But Hannity, this is rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get the rest of the knowledge and information needed. Because this president has also used something we have not seen since Richard Nixon, used the weaponization of government to benefit his family and deny Congress the ability to have the oversight.
If we are talking about millions of dollars coming from our top geopolitical foes and that the Biden family has been corrupted and took in all of this money and he was complicit in that, wouldn't that mean that we have a criminal enterprise as president of the United States that had to be on every level compromised by countries that are not particularly fond of us?
Well, it's interesting that the Biden family runs, if they say, a company but never had an office and shell companies to be able to pay through. But if they really ran it for foreign countries, why didn't you get money from France, from Germany, from UK? Why does it have to be from China, Romania, in these countries that have real challenges and had problems going through? I believe we will follow this all the way to the end, and this is going to rise to an impeachment inquiry the way the Constitution tells us to do this, and we have to get the answers to these questions.
In the words of John Dean, a malignant cancer now is surrounding the Biden presidency, and those walls are closing awfully tight. This is not going the way I'm sure they wanted it to. And then we have on the other side of it the assistance of the DOJ and the FBI. That's Jim Jordan's committee. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's about time that the Republicans finally started talking about impeachment because the Democrats couldn't get 2 sentences out without mentioning it when Trump was in power.
Right after he was sworn in.
Yeah, exactly. When he came down the elevator.
Yeah,
the headline the next day after his election on one of the papers, I think it was I don't know if it was the Old York Times or whether it was the Washington Compost, but said, now we begin impeachment proceedings.
Yep. And we heard Russia. We still hear it, even though it's a hoax. We still hear it from people. Our friend Steve is with us this morning regarding Twitter. X marks the spot, he says. Steve Stanton also
good,
says,
Steve, thanks.
Yes. Also, talking about the pot calling the kettle black. You're exactly right.
Exactly.
I do think that we're seeing this administration, along with the DOJ, the FBI, all weaponized against anyone that is doing something that Biden doesn't agree with or that Biden wished he was doing to make more money.
This is the thing that I can't understand, Brittany, and maybe I ought to study the Constitution a little more because I would like to be an expert on it. But, okay, we start the impeachment proceedings. You've got this corrupt FBI. You've got the corrupt DOJ. How do we go from there? What do you do?
But when you go back to the Constitution, none of these organizations existed. This was all power that should have been regulated with the Congress, and they have given it away to all of these 3-letter organizations, which was never the plan. And I think that that's what's really gotten us into trouble here in this country is having all these organizations.
It's kind of like, they love to pass the buck. And one of them was when they started going back and doing the base closings, military base closings.
Oh, yeah.
They formed a committee of sorts. So if they closed a base, they couldn't say, well, Senator so and so didn't stand up for it, or Congressman didn't stand. Well, the committee came up with this.
Oh, they removed accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
They're really good at that.
No, oh, they certainly are, and so it kind of reminds you of the old saying. But the great old man of General Motors was working in his lab one day, and some guy came running in and said, "Charlie Lindbergh just flew the Atlantic Ocean alone." He said, "Hell, that's nothing. Let him try it with a committee." So,
well, when we get back, we're going to be talking about what Matt Gaetz had to say to one of our lieutenant colonels.
Generals.
Sorry.
How in God's name this guy made it to lieutenant general is beyond my comprehension. How he made it past lieutenant is beyond me. That's next.
For nearly 30 years, crime was falling in the United States. No more. Far-left politicians have allowed our streets and parks. The national murder rate is at its highest in 25 years. The result of far-left policies that leave innocent Americans at the mercy of violent criminals. You've seen the images. Subway riders pushed onto tracks by the violently deranged. Stores being looted in broad daylight. Elderly women viciously beaten on the street and outside their homes. Gang shootings turning cities into war zones. Hardened criminals rampaging without fear. No fear of arrest. No fear of prosecution. No fear of jail. No fear of any consequence at all. Instead, you are made to live in fear. Woke, progressive prosecutors are releasing dangerous predators before trial. Woke, far-left politicians have allowed our streets and parks to be overrun with crime and drugs. Police have been made into the enemy, and criminals into a protected class. Violent crime is up 21% in Washington, D.C., 35% in Chicago, 41% in New York City, and murders are up 207% in Portland. Cities in chaos, billions in property damages, lives and families destroyed. Stop the woke war on police. Stop the far-left assault on public safety. Stop the radical left-wing love affair with criminals. Stop the insanity. Citizens for Sanity paid for this ad.
Come join us today at Sweet Potato's Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Now, it's one thing to know pronouns and other things, but what they're doing in our military is incredible. And now they're educating our cadets as such.
I'm sorry. I think the pronoun thing, and it's been proven that if you have pronouns like on a resume or you put it on a job application, you are less likely to get hired because people do not want to deal with your crap.
Yeah, and how do you know what your pronouns are? Going to have it tattooed above your forehead now because they said, well, what was the thing? They wanted to be a law against the law to refer to somebody by the wrong pronoun. Well, how do I know? Especially if they change it from day to day, and they come up with all these new genders that they keep inventing, and it's couldn't be even he couldn't be worse at the Air Force Academy of all places, and the commander who is there hadn't got a clue as to what he is talking about when Matt Gaetz talked to him and asked a few questions about what is all this about, General.
A diverse and inclusive force is a war-fighting imperative. This is on a slide at the Air Force Academy. General Clark, do you agree with that statement?
I do agree with that statement, sir.
So, I mean, were the Mongols diverse?
Well, sir, I'm not really as versed on Mongol warfighting as I am on U.S. warfighting.
Were the Vikings diverse?
Again, sir, I'm looking at our country, the most diverse country in the world.
Sure, but this is about a war-fighting imperative. How about the force in Ukraine? Are the Ukrainians fighting the Russians a diverse force?
Sir, once again, my concern is the people that I'm charged to build into leaders.
Right, but you would acknowledge that throughout history, including present history, that statement hasn't borne true in every example, right?
Sir, what I would say is that those countries have to rely on the full force of their population to build a war-fighting force to win our wars, and that's why it's important for us to be diverse, because our nation...
So let's look at the population that actually makes up the fighting force frequently. Now, we have more men than women, right? 70-30-ish?
That's
right.
correct.
And of the men we have, most of them are not transgender men. Most of them are cisgender men, right?
Yes, sir.
But yet, at our academies, we push something called the Brooke Owens Fellowship. Are you familiar with that?
I am, yes, sir.
And in that fellowship, it specifically says, if you are a cisgender man, this program isn't for you. So you just said that your answer on why we do this full hug of these diversity concepts is because it's all about the fighting force that we draw from, but you're literally pushing a program in the academies that says if you're a cisgender woman, a transgender woman, a non-binary, agender, bigender, two-spirit, demigender. What's demigender?
Sir, that's a term of the people that are eligible for that particular scholarship that is available to. It's a person who looks at their gender in a different way than I do, sir.
Well, sure, that's all of these people. You're a cisgender man. You don't even get to apply.
Well,
do you know what demigender really means?
I'm not really sure, sir.
Right. So, do you know what agender means? All one word, not a space gender, but agender.
Sir, I don't.
Right. So here we are, pushing a fellowship, calling for people that you don't even know what the words mean, and the number one group of people, the cisgender men, are excluded. Now, in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion, should we be pushing programs that we can't define that exclude the largest group of service members?
Well, sir, first, that program is not an Air Force Academy program. It's a program open to our entire country.
Right,
so
but
you
guys advocate for it within the academy.
We allow our cadets to apply for it.
Why are you allowing your cadets to apply for a program when you cannot define the basic terms of eligibility?
Because it's an opportunity for us to develop them as warfighters, and we look for every opportunity that we can. But you don't even know what the words
mean. How can you use this as a way to develop the warfighters if you don't know what it means?
Well, some of those terms may not be applicable to us at the Air Force Academy, but some are.
But if you don't know what they mean, it's hard to tell if they're applicable or not. So I think one of the reasons why some of this stuff has gotten into the academies is because we don't have the same oversight from the Board of Visitors. And, Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record an article from the Washington Examiner entitled, "To Push Woke Ideology, Biden Illegally Gutted Military Academy Oversight Boards." And so in this piece, it goes through a timeline where on September 8th, 2021, all of President Trump's appointees were fired. On September 17th, Secretary Austin created Board of Visitors subcommittees, and then he populated those subcommittees with people who weren't on the Board of Visitors. Have you ever seen that happen before?
Sir, our Board of Visitors is populated and supports us in great fashion.
Right. So. What about the subcommittee? Are there people on the Board of Visitors subcommittees who are not on the Board of Visitors?
I can't answer that, sir.
Seems like something we ought to know.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure.
Right, but that would be odd, right? I mean, here, okay, let me ask the question this way. You don't have any basis to disagree with the reporting here in the Washington Examiner that literally we have people who are not on the Board of Visitors who are serving on these subcommittees. You have no basis to disagree with that, do you?
Sir, I'm not exactly sure the question you're asking. So I'll have to take that for record so I can understand what you're asking.
Thank you, Mr.
Representative Escobar.
That was painful to watch.
It was ridiculous to watch that this is really what we're talking about in our government. Like, absolutely embarrassing.
This is a guy in charge of turning our cadets into a war, a well-oiled fighting machine.
Yes. Well, Lizzie Warren's with us this morning, and she had a lot to say about this. She said, and the pronouns change? How can we send money to Ukraine since it's not diverse? I don't know. We should really be holding the Biden administration accountable to that.
If the Ukrainians don't know what their pronouns are,
no money for you.
No siree. And I'm sure that Xi Jinping and Vladimir Rootin' Tootin' Putin is sitting there saying, I don't know how we can attack America if we don't know our pronouns.
Well, I think that they're also like, I think they kind of feel bad for us. They're like, wow, a country in like going downhill very quickly.
On the downside.
Yeah. Lizzie Warren says, what the heck is demigender? And OMG, he is dense.
Is it any kind of Demi Moore?
No.
I guess not. Okay.
I will say.
But they keep making up these terms. Every time we turn around, there's a new one. And I don't blame the general for not knowing what these things are. But he should be prepared. He should be calling these people in and said, and exactly what are you? What is this? And what does that have to do with pushing the button to fire a missile?
So I will tell you that demigender, demi meaning half, plus gender, is an umbrella term for non-binary gender identities that have a partial connection to a certain gender.
Well, that's about as clear as mud.
It's just like they want to make up a new word for something so that they can go into another category. Like, I don't know. Maybe non-binary means it's more. Well, maybe non-binary means you're more fluid, where gender means that you have certain parts of you that are clearly male and clearly female. I'm not really sure. But yeah, exactly. I think just keeping us confused is part of the plan.
Yeah, that's it. We're going to confuse the Chinese. We're going to confuse the Russians.
Yeah, I don't think they're confused. I think they feel bad for us, and they're probably just like, you know what, maybe we should just take them out. I mean, what's left over in America, I don't know if it's worth saving.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder because I'm sorry, why are we having these conversations in our military? We're on the verge of World War III. We're giving, I think we just approved another $43 billion or something like that for Ukraine. I'm not really sure.
Nothing's too good for our Ukrainians.
Well, how are you allowed to keep giving money without ever going to Congress and asking for it? I'm sorry, I don't remember saying, "Hey, Joe Biden, please have a blank check anytime you want. Just write one to Ukraine."
Okay, and from my military experience, the old saying goes that there are no atheists in a foxhole, and the people that I worked with, all the kids I met from all the different universities and colleges. For ROTC summer camp at Fort Bragg, and I'm still going to call it Fort Bragg. I don't care what they rename the damn place.
That's what my dad said yesterday, actually, to me.
Yeah, but it was just amazing that we had black kids, we had Chinese kids, we had black commanders, we had white commanders, we had black NCOs, we had white NCOs. It didn't make a damn bit of difference.
Yeah, it's
we were
amazing.
All working together for the same purpose.
Well, and Mary Highbreeder says distractions in all capital letters. I 100% agree. They're really good at this. And
yes, sir. Watch this shiny thing over here.
Yes, but what are they distracting us from? And we'll get to that in just a minute. But
I don't know. China buying off the president of the United States?
Well, I think that that's one thing, but I also think that there's more to it than that.
No.
Lizzie Warren says people hated Donald Trump more than they love their country or its survival. You're absolutely correct. And one of the things that I think the distraction is from is our border. I do think that I'm not hearing even Fox really talk about the border that much. I haven't seen a lot from them. I don't watch Fox, but
they're keeping it front and center, and we're going to talk more about it and show you just how bad it is right after we hear from some of the folks who help pay for all this.
Drew, I didn't think this was supposed to be a serious show.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like,
rather than my skills.
I want to be judged by my political beliefs.
I want to get promoted
based on my chromosomes.
When I grow up, I want to be offended by my coworkers
and walk around the office
on eggshells
and have my words policed
by HR. Words like
grandfather,
peanut gallery,
long time no see,
no can do.
When I grow up,
I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long.
When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder.
Just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist. I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this terrific Tuesday.
Yes, and right before the break, we were talking about some of the distractions that we think that they're giving us, so they're not paying attention to other things. And one of those things is the border. I think it's one of the most important things that we deal with because you see what's happening in France. I mean, the immigrants that have come into the country, they haven't assimilated. And so now they're trying to take over. And France will no longer have the culture that it once had if things continue the way that they are.
Here's the dirty little secret, Brittany, that most people don't know. We closed our border for 30 years.
And I'm sure it helped a lot.
The reason was assimilation. Yeah. We wanted people to, that we were always, it disturbed me when we started talking about multiculturalism and multiculturalism teaching. And that's fine to look at the cultures of other countries. But there is a distinct American culture, and that should be first and foremost that's being taught in our schools. Not how they do it in Chile, not how they do it in India. Those countries are so great. How come they're not as good as ours?
No one's fighting to get in over there. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? All these people that are pouring to get in here, if this is such a terrible place.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, just like all the left's arguments. But
yeah, I'd like to send them a lot of the Cal Berkeley students.
Yes.
Send them
please
over there.
do.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
We have a foreign exchange type program.
Absolutely.
We would love all of you to go.
Yeah.
So Lizzie Warren says, what border? And it's gone. It's non-existent.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You're absolutely right. Down on the border in Arizona, they actually discovered Ben Barquam, who, if you don't follow him, you should. He is with Real America's Voice, I think is what it is. And he does amazing reporting on the border. He's been at the border for months and months and months. And, in Lukeville, Arizona.
One of my favorite places.
Yes. It's a border town. And he actually found something really interesting there yesterday.
Mm-hmm. What did he find?
There it is. This is where they're all coming through. So they've obviously cut the wall here. They're bringing them up from Sonoita. Undoubtedly, there's a cartel coyote on this side that's running all of this. And they bring them through and they tell them to go that way for 5 miles. So that's it, guys. They just cut the gate here. You can see how many times this has been re-welded. Look at this. All of this re-welded, trying to stop them from getting in, and they just come back and cut it again. It looks like Border Patrol may have just given up on trying to weld these. It's a fruitless quest if we just let them in anyways. But this is what happens. You get the families and all these people that we've been interviewing all the way down the line here. They come through here, but so do those guys that don't want to get caught. And those ones head up into the desert. Border Patrol ends up being completely overrun. They can't deal with the illegals, the really bad guys running up through the desert that don't want to get caught. You see here, they've cut it too. This is Joe Biden's America.
Didn't have a key. My question is, okay, we know where this is. Could we get a couple of guys with like M60 machine guns or something like that, bazookas, or, well, we don't have bazookas anymore, rocket propelled grenades or something, and when somebody shows up to cut the weld again, we take target practice at them.
Well, here's the thing, Bill.
Just saying.
Well, that would be great, except for I think that they would probably go to jail according to the Biden administration. We had an 86-year-old man that was accused of killing illegals on his property, and he's still in jail. So I think that there's a huge issue.
But we can't find who put cocaine in the White House or who released the Dobbs decision. Right.
And the other thing is, you have these people that they're coming across the border. Cartels are super dangerous. And you also have the Biden administration who is now suing Texas because they put up those water barriers. And they're saying that they're dangerous. They could kill people. Well, I guess people shouldn't be in the water. They shouldn't be trying to come into our country because that is also illegal.
Yeah, that's right.
And
good on Governor Greg Abbott was saying, see you in court, Mr. President.
Yeah, but I wish that we weren't always on offense. I wish that we were a little bit more defensive and we were suing them for their lack of protection on the border. Also, we're not going to have any Border Patrol agents left if they keep this up. I mean, the morale is down. People can't do their jobs.
Well, they become babysitters or administrators of some sort to do paperwork.
Well, they're basically like TSA at the border. Come on in.
Right.
Let me check you and get you your passport and your papers and head on in.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. So speaking of that, Tijuana, the airport in Tijuana, business is booming down there. You should see all the people just getting on planes and coming right into our country.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, let's take a look.
So this is wild. I just want you guys to look back here. Another group just came in. We saw the couple hundred. The ant trail Up the line there, those are all CBP1 entries right now going into America. Joe Biden did that. That's happening right now as we speak, Tijuana, Mexico. Almost every port of entry across our border being let in because of Joe Biden and Secretary Marcus. They're lying to you.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Uh-huh.
Lizzie says we are supposed to respect every other culture, but ours is supposed to be destroyed. Yep. And we probably are paying for those flights. You're exactly right
Lizzie,
there.
I think you've nailed it.
And it says, nope, Biden didn't do it. Every single person who voted for Biden did that.
Exactly.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think here's the other thing about this border stuff. They are getting treated better than American citizens. I mean, we weren't allowing people to come into our country based off of COVID. And we allowed all of the illegal immigrants to come in. It's amazing how that works.
And a tennis player, Evan Djokovic, couldn't come in and play at the U.S. Open. He couldn't play at the Australian Open because he didn't get the Fauci ouchie. But these people come across willy-nilly, and it's interesting. And this is another thing. You know, the media. One of the powers that the media has is the power to ignore. We all of a sudden we're seeing diseases crop up again that we haven't seen in this country in decades.
I wonder where that could come from, Bill. It's so hard to determine where this stuff comes from, really.
Well, they'll probably do a thorough investigation like they did at the White House and the Supreme Court.
Yep, and they bring in scabies and tuberculosis and other diseases, is what Lizzie Warren says.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't be surprised if polio started creeping up again.
Yes, and Mary says over 7 million have crossed the border since Biden took office.
Mm-hmm.
And what is their children's vaccination history? Yeah, we get asked that all the time. Why aren't they getting asked that?
And where are they going?
All
what
over the
doing?
country.
Yeah.
All over the country. And a lot of them are fighting age males, which I think is super dangerous to let into the country.
Mm-hmm.
We're also having children being shipped to their handlers. So we're paying for that. We're not verifying who these people are. We're basically allowing these kids to probably go into child slavery and sex trafficking. And I want to tell you, I want to show you just how good they have it. When they get to this country, there is a concierge service that they are able to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is wild. I just want you guys to look back here. Another group just came in. We saw the couple hundred this morning that were all lined up here. They've since moved out. Now we have more coming. We're just down on the wall right up over there. Another groups, multiple groups coming this way. They bring them over here. It's a well-oiled machine. Bring them here. And then you'll notice right there, yes, you see those little white dots on top of the bags. Those are the concierge Homeland Security bag tags, so that we don't lose your stuff when we transport. And not only do you not have to pay for your bags to be tagged, we pay you. Yes, that's right. The American citizens, the taxpayer, pay for all of this. Think about that next time you go to the airport and have to pay for a bag. Or do anything else that you have to pay for. You're paying for this, guys.
Why are we giving so much money to Ukraine and giving so much money to these illegals that are coming in, and yet we're having a hard time with families buying milk?
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It makes me very upset because the American people are not being taken care of, and people will continue to vote against their own best interest because they think they're doing something, honorable.
Noble?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we knew we were in trouble. When you talk about treating the illegals better than Americans, when they started throwing homeless veterans out of the hotels in New York so they could put the illegal aliens in there.
Yep. And
they're so grateful, illegal aliens.
Yeah, that they threw out all the food that we gave them.
Threw out the food we gave
them
because it wasn't a taco.
Yeah. Well, and Steve Stanton says on one hand you have the radical Democrat mayor of New York, and on the other hand you have the governor of Texas is being sued. We've lost our minds.
Yeah, and now the mayor of New York is getting his knees bloody, begging us not to send any more illegal aliens because they can't take any more.
Yeah, and Lizzie,
how do you think Squeedunk, Texas is doing?
They're not doing well. I mean, it's destroying all of the crops there. I mean, there's so much damage being done across the border of Texas because of the border being wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And Lizzie Warren says, actually, I read 70% are being sent to red states because stupid Americans hated Donald Trump. And Mary says it's the intentional destruction of our country. And Ann Drabek is with us this morning. And she says this is all by design and on purpose. They want to destroy America. Just look at all the bribes the Biden crime family has gotten.
But what is the end game? Now, when you destroy that, and it's the guy. This is a course that ought to be taught instead of some of this other crap that they're teaching kids. Mother Goose rhymes, Mother Goose stories, and Aesop's fables. The one about the man who killed the goose that laid the golden egg. He thought he could get more if he killed the goose. Oh, there must be a bunch of eggs in here, and cut it open, and there's nothing. He was getting one golden egg a day, but that wasn't enough.
Yeah, and we did have a meeting with some of our representatives, and one of the things they said is there's not anything they can do about all the illegals coming in. We need to start getting creative and playing some real hardball with this administration, because if not, all of these red states are going to be destroyed by what's going on. I will tell you, I have a friend that works in construction, and they said, the Mexican crews, you can't compete with them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because they outbid everything. They underbid everything, and they'll work at a much lower rate. And so it's putting a lot of people out of business.
And they'll work. We could learn something from them about work ethic. I know a friend of mine that had a lawn care business, and he said that they show up early, they work their tails off, and they leave late, and don't no complaints.
But they're probably making half as much money.
Yeah. I understand that.
So very interesting stuff going on. And I think we should need to keep the border in the forefront of our minds, and we need to be creative and make some suggestions on what we can do as Georgians to combat this, because we've got to stop it. It will ruin our state.
My brother-in-law lives in just outside of Nashville, a beautiful little community up there. And his next door neighbor is an electrician, and he's got an electrical business. And he said they are paying people $90 a day to show up. And he said it's hard to keep people working more than a week.
It's wild.
That's just to show up. That's not just that's over and above the regular salary. And he still can't get people.
We live in a wild world here in America, and we need to bring back some traditional values.
Yeah, boy.
When we get back, we'll be talking about this and a lot more.
And a farewell to a singing legend.
That's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a ride. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934 with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Heading down the home stretch here for this terrific Tuesday morning.
Yes, and I would just want to share some comments that were left over from the last segment. Lizzie Warren says, except not all of the people coming across the border are working. Mary Hybrider says, I returned from the North Carolina mountains and the Mexican work crews were everywhere. Lizzie Warren says, Americans are filing disability claims and living off of that money. Doesn't surprise me.
Nope. When the government's giving money away, why should you go back to work?
Well, especially when, when you go to work, so when I worked in corporate, going to work was not that much fun anymore because it was all about how you can make the employee happy and like basically begging them to do a good job. And I feel like that's how a lot of corporate companies are now. And it's like, we have a game room. You can go play in the game room. But, if you don't get all of your stuff done, I mean, that's okay as long as you're happy. But we still need you to do some work today. Yeah. And we're doing all these parties and all this crazy stuff to try and get people to work. And it's like, people should want to work. It gives you purpose. It gives you the ability to provide for a family. I mean, it gives you the ability to travel. Like there's so many things that work can do for you. And it's very frustrating to me that that's what our country's turned into. And these corporate companies are at fault.
With a couple of exceptions, I just couldn't wait to get to work every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, as Mark Twain said, find something you love, find a job that you love, and you'll never have to go to work a day in your life.
Yeah, and I will say, this has been real enjoyable.
Yeah,
this has
exactly.
been really fun. So I can't complain, but I just, working in corporate, I feel like the last few years were really, really tough to work there because it was, it wasn't a merit-based system anymore.
Yeah. Well, there's a low-budget film that is taking the box office by storm, even though a lot of publicity was given to Barbie. And by the way, my granddaughter went to see it up in Charlotte. So she took some kids, said that was 2 hours of her life she won't get back. Said it was the most god-awful thing she'd ever seen in her life.
And we'll be having someone here in studio to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we'll be talking about
Thursday.
that. But Sound of Freedom cost about $10 million to make.
Yes.
It took the producer 8 years to get it in the theaters. And now it's selling like hotcakes.
Well, I believe they're up to $124 million that it's made. There has been some reporting that says that more than 2 seats are free in the theater at 3:00 in the afternoon in New York City, in Times Square. I mean, they're lying about how many people are seeing this movie.
2 seats were empty.
More than 2, it said.
Yeah, more than two.
So they're saying that they're not really selling out these theaters, that the whole pay it forward program is a scam. There's no one in the theaters. But if the theater says that all the seats are full, who's buying those tickets? Because someone has to be buying those tickets. The whole pay it forward program doesn't select what theaters they go to.
Well,
so it doesn't really make sense to me.
And the amazing thing was that in some cases they were told, well, you can't go in the auditorium because of the air conditioning's out. It's strange that all the air conditioning was out in the theater that was showing Sounds of Freedom.
I know. It's so weird.
Fascinating.
So weird.
But President Donald Trump thinks it's a good flick and congratulated Jim Caviezel and others who were a part of that production.
Yes, and they actually had this at Mar-a-Lago last week. They did a showing, a special showing down there, and Jim Caviezel and Tim Ballard were both there.
Thank you all very much. That was incredible. Jim, that was unbelievable. What a job. So, President, it's a possibility. I mean, you made this the hottest movie anywhere in the world, so I think maybe becoming the president of Mexico by comparison, right? So I just wanted to thank you all. That was unbelievable acting, and Tim, what a job you did. I wouldn't want to do it. Somebody's going to do it, and you did, and you really did. Great combination, beautiful combination. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. It's something that I'm not sure if you're supposed to enjoy or learn. It's a combination, but that was a great movie. And I now understand why it's doing so well. It's setting records, by the way. It's beating the biggest movies out. They have some of the big summer blockbusters, and this is knocking the socks off of them, so that's pretty good. I'd love to have your potential. What potential? Anybody want to make a movie? Because I think Jim maybe will be available, but maybe not so long. It is an incredible thing that 2 movies, and you've done others, but 2 movies, 2 of the biggest, I guess the 2 biggest independents ever done. And it was an honor getting to know you. And I even agreed to do a podcast for somebody. Who's that somebody? Is that you, Tim? Well, that's the least I can do, and I look forward to doing it. So I hope everybody had a fantastic time. I did. It's an incredible inspiration. And you guys are something very special. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and come back anytime. Thank you very much.
How nice.
I mean, Mar-a-Lago, something really special, and I do think that he's actually trying to convince the guy that produced and directed this film to become the president of Mexico.
That'd be great.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think that he would love that.
Refreshing change.
Yes.
Meanwhile, it is, as we wrap it up today, a farewell to a musical legend. And this guy has been entertaining us since the early 50s. Tony Bennett passed away just shy of his 92nd birthday last week. And as we leave you today, we say a fond farewell to a fantastic artist.
Absolutely.
Stay real.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. Let me know what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song. Let me sing forevermore. You are all I longed for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true.